Is investment something that's always been on your mind, but you don't quite know how to get started on that journey? We are here to set you on the right course. Welcome to My Cashflow Academy's Investors Corner with your host, Athena Paquette Cormier. We are all about getting out of the rat race through creating positive passive income through real estate investing. Here you'll hear from regular people just like you and the professionals who support us towards greater wealth. Learn before you earn, move from analysis to action, and find the right path to attaining the success that you've always dreamed of for yourself. Now, here's your host, Athena.
I'm Athena Paquette, and I'm here with Kyle Freitas, a real estate investor who's here to share his story about the beginnings of real estate investing for him and where he's at now. Welcome, Kyle.
Hi.
Hi.
Funny you say real estate investor for me.
Yeah, well, that's what you are. So welcome, real estate investor Kyle. You'll tell us more about the other parts of your life. But we do this Investors Corner, Investors Talk, because we want to hear about real success by real people here in the South Bay and around the world eventually, but for right now, around the South Bay. And so we're just here to share the story of how you started in real estate and where you're at now. So why don't you start by telling us kind of where you grew up and, do you have any siblings, kind of your family story?
Okay. Well, I lived in Gardena for my whole childhood. I went to Torrance schools, specifically North Torrance schools, graduated from North High. I'm the youngest of three boys.
Okay.
My dad's from Hawaii. My mom's from Japan, in a sense.
Oh, wow.
So
cool.
Yeah.
And so are you, you're single or married?
I am happily married.
Okay, great. How long you been married?
Christine and I got married back in 2015.
Okay.
We've been living together since 2012. So, Yeah.
So obviously it was going well, and you decided to get married.
They're going well, yeah.
Okay, cool. And what's your educational background? Like, did you go to college or tech school? Did you have a master's? What's your educational background and study?
I did the whole junior college, then transferred to Cal. I went to El Camino first and transferred to Cal State Dominguez Hills. I majored in computer information systems as a business administration major.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, after I graduated, I said, I'll travel for a couple months and spent all my savings within those couple months.
Okay.
And fortunately, during college, I had a part-time job fixing computers, and one of my clients said, hey, I work at this aerospace company. I think you'll be good in this job. Why don't you come over? And
cool.
So I was actually in Italy sending him my resume.
Oh my gosh.
Before I got home.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So what profession are you in?
So now,
is that still the job you have now today, or?
I've gotten promoted. So now I'm a manufacturing engineer.
Okay.
So it's still aerospace, and how I became a manufacturing engineer, I really don't know. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Good. So how long have you been in that profession or that job now?
So I've been working for this company since 2009.
Okay, so it's been a while now.
It's been a while. Okay. Pretty settled in.
That's nice when you start getting used to it, right? It's not all new all the time.
Well, you get a lot of new tasks, but yeah, you kind of get used to that.
Okay. So when was your first exposure to real estate, or, I call it the inkling or the spark? When was the first time, let's say, that you were aware of real estate?
So my dad, when we were young, he owned a couple of Section 8 in San Pedro. And I actually remember him taking us a couple times to see it.
Okay.
You really don't understand, but he always told us, and he still tells us to this day, you need to invest in real estate. You need to invest. And, things are different now, right? You have the amount of information he had, nothing compared to what we can pull now.
Yeah.
Because he had that property in San Pedro, and then he sold that and ended up buying in Florida, North Carolina, and Arkansas.
Okay. Wow.
It was pre-internet, right? So,
Right. Not easy.
Yeah, not easy at all.
Yeah.
So
so your first exposure was your dad's kind of already in it.
Yeah, and kind of seeing what he had to deal with. And so that was my first exposure. So when it came time, I think if I remember correctly, when Christine and I started dating, like around that time, you talk about future plans and whatnot. And I was like, we're not getting a dream home right away. I'm like, we're going to get an investment property. And so, so I don't know. It wasn't something that just happened. It was kind of like, well, this is what we should do.
So it was already in you. So when you came to that point, you were like, okay, it's time, kind of like that.
Yeah. I was like, let's start looking.
No big aha moment. It was just in you that was going to be part of your process, I guess.
Yeah, I was but I didn't have any starting point.
Right.
And then, you read a couple books and you're like, okay, whatever. But I still need money.
Yeah. Right. So what books did you read? Do you remember what they were called?
I read Automatic Millionaire.
Okay, that's a good one.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forgot, there was a couple of, basically anything on retirement I was reading on.
Oh, that's interesting. So not so much investing, but retirement.
Yeah,
How to get your future together.
Fair.
Wow, that's cool. So so did you go to a class? I know you came to my class at Torrance Unified, but
so I was reading these books and I didn't really know where to start. And my same client who I built the computer for, who got me the job, who was also my boss, was like, because we talked outside of work too, and he was like, hey, come with me to this class. And it was your class for investing. And that's probably my best connection so far in my short career is my friend, because he opened the world to me so far.
Yeah, right. The job. He didn't find you Christina too, did he?
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I had to ask, Okay. So you came to the class at Torrance Unified, which is like a whirlwind of information in one night, right?
Yeah, and still you're kind of like, well, it's all this information, and you show all your success stories, and you're like, yeah, that's cool, but how do I get there?
Yeah.
And I did your consultation and got me in touch with Michelle, who's still our realtor. And it's from there we started looking at properties.
Right. So I think my coaching to people, and I think it was to you too, is start with units and then later buy your dream home. But first, if you have no other property, start by buying some kind of unit, plex type of duplex, triplex, fourplex. Buy a plex, live in it, and then move and start, getting towards your, we'll call it dream home or a single family home. So that's what you did, right? What was your first property?
So we were renting in Gardena and paying about $12.50 a month. So we found in Lawndale, which is maybe 10 minutes away and even closer to where we work, we found a 2 on a lot. And we looked at it. It was in our price range. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
cool.
And that was, when did we start? That was early 20, I believe, somewhere
2014?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we had been looking for probably a year and a half.
So you bought a duplex in Lawndale and you moved into one side, right?
Yeah, we moved. So we said, okay, this front unit is bigger, probably get more rent for it, and it's in much better shape, and we'll just live in the back unit. But little did we know that when we were going to move into the back unit, that it was in livable conditions, but not to our standard.
Right. Right.
So when we closed in May, and actually we decided we were going to do the property management for the first year. Right. Unfortunately,
there was a tenant there already, right?
There was a tenant. But per the contract we had, they moved out.
Okay.
Yeah, they moved out because actually they put a bid on the house.
Oh. Oh.
They were angry and they left.
Oh. Sour grapes or sour milk or whatever.
We were hoping to keep them. So we found ourselves in a situation where we have to find a tenant, and we never really done it before. And coincidentally, a friend of a friend was looking for a place to live. And so we knew his work background already. We knew everything. And we liked him. So we said, okay, move in. And then, so he moved in. And when we were about to move in, the day we moved into our property, we started throwing our stuff in, and we said, oh my gosh, we can't live here yet.
Yeah.
So instead, what happened is I moved back in with my parents. Christine moved in with her parent. And for the whole summer, my dad and I just remodeled.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had this unexpected cost, but we weren't paying, we had a tenant. So they were covering most of our mortgage. So it didn't really hurt at all. So then when it wasn't till September, so end of summer, that we finally were able to move into and really settle in to our place here.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So, and you bought that, do you remember how much you paid for the property?
$482.
Okay. And then do you remember how much down payment or how much money you had to put down, or total, how much did you put to buy the property?
We did FHA, so it's 5%. So $240.
Like 3.5. It was about 20,000, I think, that you guys put into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then how much was the rent that tenant paid you right in the beginning?
So he was paying us $1,500 a month.
Okay. And what's the market rent now that you're getting? Now that it's 3 years later or 3.5 years later?
So what we learned was doing your own property management, you don't really know the market.
Right.
We thought we knew it. And so our tenant moved down. We decided, okay, we're not going to do the property management thing. Let's let a professional do it. And we interviewed using your questions. And so now we're getting $2,100.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is important for people to know. So you bought the property with FHA financing, right? A great interest rate, but you were paying PMI. So I think maybe 2 years later you came in to refinance, right? You had a lot of equity now, so you refinance. How much did the payment drop when we refinanced you? Like $300-400, something like that.
It's closer to $500.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a lot of savings. So now your rent payment that you're collecting from the other guys is $2,100. And how much is your mortgage payment and taxes and insurance and all that stuff together?
Well, after everything, it's about just under 24.
Okay. So you're short $300 a month right now.
Yeah, but we pay 6% to our property now.
They're right. Okay. So one day you may move out from this property, and how much do you think you could get in rent from the unit you're in?
So our unit, we're looking at 16 to 17.
Okay. So let's say you move out next year sometime, just to make this easy. So if you owned a property since 2014, May of 2014, is that what we said?
Yep.
So 4 years later, basically you'll be collecting $1,500 a month, maybe $1,200 a month after all the expenses, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So so that's $14,000 a year, and you only put $20,000 into it, right? That's amazing. Kudos to you, man. That's good numbers. Good numbers. I like that. So that's awesome. So you took step one of my plan. So tell me, because you bought other real estate since then, right?
Yeah.
So tell me more about what else did you do? What else did you buy?
So, a 20% down in California is a lot of
money.
When you look at the South Bay area, 20% down is the price the whole cost of a house in other states.
Right.
And so we invested in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, how'd you pick that? That seems pretty random, how did you pick Corpus Christi?
So Christine and I were looking around, and she had gone to a couple of seminars, and he ran into an investor who he would pay cash for his properties in Corpus Christi, and then he'd get it all rented out, and then he'd sell it to investors in Japan.
Okay.
So we said,
very far away.
Yeah. So he said, okay, well, let's look at Corpus Christi. What do they have? And, they have a population of over 300,000.
Okay.
They have a lot of energy companies there. They have oil rigs right in the bay. Texas A&M is expanding their campus there. They have a naval air station there. Really,
so you looked at the factors. I think in the class I say make sure there's at least 100,000 people, at least 3 industries, at least. Yeah. So when you're going outside your comfort zone, this city kind of met those parameters, right?
Yeah, and it met those parameters. And best of all, they are the home of Whataburger. If you're a fan of.
Awesome.
If you're in Texas.
I'm not going to say that's reason enough to buy in Corpus Christi, but it's pretty close. Kyle. Okay. So Corpus Christi. So were you looking for plexes? Were you looking for apartment building? What type of investment were you looking for?
So in our mind, we were like, we got to get a multifamily home. We got to get a duplex, another duplex. And we were looking at it, and we had talked to a couple of real estate agents, and we interviewed a couple of property managers, and the property manager we ended up going with ended up being a real estate agent. He goes,
Okay.
there's not a big supply of units in Corpus Christi, and you could actually get better rent with single family homes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when we looked at the cost of like a duplex,
right.
it per unit is not that much less than just buying one
Oh,
single.
really? That's unusual, right?
Yeah, so we're like, okay.
Right.
We're you have to be open to different markets. And so we started getting listings for single family homes, and this one came up. It was a foreclosure, and it was also just remodeled.
Oh, wow.
So we're like, hey, that's the one.
Yeah, cool. So had you been out there, Kyle? Like, did you fly out, drive around, do like a scouting trip before you did this? Or was it all like remote by email, maybe pictures, videos? How did you do this with the distance,
We did it all online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, good. Because some people are worried about that. Like, I have to see the property, right? So did you have that concern or no?
Not at all, because with the amount of pictures you see of the property, and our property manager, he went in and he took video of the property, gave us to give us a walkthrough, and then you do your home inspections, and that tells you more than what most people just starting out in real estate will actually be able to see.
Right.
There's a lot of things we don't notice.
Right.
I remember when we did the inspection on the property here in Lawndale, I was there with the inspector, and I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I trust you.
Right.
Act like, oh yeah, sure. But
Right. Okay. So so just to back up a little bit, so the price point of a single family home at the time when you bought, well, when was your first Corpus Christi purchase?
January of 2017.
Oh, this year. Okay, God, time flies. I thought for sure it was 2 years ago. But you got married 2 years ago, so you weren't buying property and getting married, right? No. Okay. So 17. Okay, so that's January. So what's the price point of the? Because you were saying that the plexes, if you even found them, they were multiples of the single family home anyway, right? So what's the price point of the house versus the plexes out there?
So the duplex we were looking at, it was going for about $220, $230.
Oh, wow.
And the single family home, and that was a 2-bed, 1-bath.
Okay.
So the house we ended up getting was a 5-bed, 3-bath and we closed at $125.
Oh, wow. That's really good, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a neighborhood where people want to be in single family homes, not duplexes.
Yes. The whole neighborhood is all single family homes. Very cool neighborhood. Park down the street.
Sounds nice. And what are the rents that you're collecting on that? The gross rent, I mean.
So we're collecting $1,400.
Okay. And you put 20% down on that one then?
20% down. And we actually did a 15-year loan. Which, yeah, I know. It's eating up our cash flow now.
Yeah. Oh, you blew it now. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But,
so you might as well share. Why did you pick a 15-year loan instead of a 30-year loan?
So we were debating about it, and we're like, well, this first property, we're hoping to get it paid off sooner than later. And then the cash flow from that, after we pay off that, we'll end up paying for all our other properties.
Okay.
There's a plan there. It's
a strategy, I guess.
It's a strategy.
Right. Okay. So, so are you negative on the property? Is the cash flow break even or a little negative? Like, what's the situation there?
We're positive.
Okay. So if you're positive and you're paying it off in half the time, that's awesome, right?
Because we could have had a lot more cash flow.
Right.
And you get a lot more room to play with your rent. 30-year loan. Okay.
Cool. And what does the manager charge out there? Like every part of the country, property managers charge different level of pricing, right? So what do you pay out there?
So every property manager we interview, they all take 10% in that area.
Okay.
That's
pretty standard. Florida's 10% too.
Yeah.
Okay. And do they charge for filling vacancies?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Can't
And
remember.
do renters come from realtors or from just advertising?
It's advertising.
Okay. Because
They
some
put a sign
states,
out and
realtors, huh?
they put a sign out and they advertise online and yeah,
That's it. Okay.
get all the calls.
Yeah. Very cool. Did you buy any more since January then?
Yes, we just closed on another one, not too
Okay.
far from that property,
Okay.
maybe within a mile of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this time, since we had spent a lot of our money on that property, well, and ours here,
Right.
we had a couple of partners that we teamed up with
Oh, okay.
and on.
Great. So the partners put in the money, or did you go 50-50, or is it 30, whatever? What kind of split
Yeah,
did you
so
do with them?
we have two partners and they want to get into the real estate game too. And
Mm-hmm.
we've known them. One of them owns his own business and the other looks at investments a lot. And actually
Mm-hmm.
when we closed, like I've been getting a lot of people coming up and saying, "Oh, when you invest, I'll be willing to go in with you."
Right.
And it's like,
That
well,
does start happening,
I'm like,
right? When you're successful, I think people just want to give you the money, right? Here's the
yeah,
money, right?
yeah, here's the money. Go do it for me, right? And I was like,
Right.
okay, yeah, sure. So we closed on our first property in Texas. Then we decided, okay, we're gonna go. So
Right. A field trip to see what you bought.
yeah, yeah, and to meet our property manager in person.
Mm-hmm.
So we told them, we're like, hey, well, if you guys are truly interested, why don't you guys come with us? You guys pay for your own ticket and your
Right.
room and board, and
Mm-hmm.
they were like, yeah, we'll do it. And most people, when you tell them, hey, you have to put up money for something, especially when it's a few $100s,
Yeah.
even though in the big things it's not that much money, most people
Right.
knock right away, and they're like, "Let's do this."
Right. So that gave you confidence that they would be good partners with you, right? I mean, if they're willing to
Yeah, is
do their own investigation
we,
and pay
we
for
were
it.
very surprised because most
Yeah.
people are just like, "Oh, why don't you just do it for us?" And when we went, we decided, okay, we'll look at properties as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at, one day we looked at probably a dozen properties. It was a
Right.
tiring day. And so we got back to our motel and Christine and I, we went back to our room. We crashed. We went straight to bed.
Yeah. It is
Like, oh,
exhausting.
we'll see you guys in a couple hours for dinner. We get up, we knock on their door, and they're like, hey, we've been running numbers for the past couple hours. We're
They
like,
pulled an all-nighter, right?
that's fantastic. I'm really hungry though. We just woke up. Okay.
You know what? When we went to Texas with a bunch of people, we just right there at the dinner table in the barbecue place, we had all the printouts and all this, notes, and we had it spread all over the table. And the waiter was like, "Oh, could you move your stuff so I could put your plate back?" We were just so into it. My friend Renee, me, my friend Alex, we all went to, Dallas Fort Worth. So I know what you mean. People get excited and now they're crunching numbers and they can't believe it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
they were crunching the numbers. They were excited, and we actually, before we left, we signed a contract to be an escrow on the property, and
Awesome.
that one unfortunately didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept looking, and we found the one we eventually just closed on, and we actually started escrow in August.
Right. So when did you go out again? You went. When did you take this trip?
So this trip was in January.
To see the part. Okay, yeah.
Right when we closed.
Okay.
And then, so we were in escrow, and then we pulled out, and then throughout the summer we kept looking, and then we found a couple of properties. We pulled out of escrow one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Another property, because this property I've been looking at throughout the summer, it had gone off market, and I was, oh man, we missed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, so we went on escrow on this property, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this property came back up.
Yeah. Okay.
We said, okay, let's pull out of this first escrow, and we went in on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And
awesome. So why did you pull out of the first whatever property that was? What was the reason that you decided to cancel that one?
Well, the first escrow we pulled out, it was another foreclosure through HUD,
mm-hmm.
and there's so many limitations that you can do with HUD
mm-hmm.
that they wouldn't allow us to do a remodel. The person who got foreclosed on did damage to the property.
Right.
So it was a great deal. It had a great price point, but HUD was like, "Oh no, you can't do this. You can't. We can't." Oh, he had taken out the HVAC system.
Oh,
And HUD's like, well, or the banks were saying, "Oh, we can't loan to you unless it has an HVAC system."
right.
And we're like, well, this is a HUD home, and most people are gonna get a loan for this.
Yeah.
Things didn't make sense, so we're like, okay, well, fine. We're
Because HUD doesn't want you fixing the property before you own it, right? You're not supposed to go in and do stuff to it. Yeah. So that's a good example of a time where you have to line up some investors to do a cash purchase and then refinance and do the work you need to do and so on and so forth, right? So yeah. So okay. But you backed out. So
yeah, we backed out. So the next one, it was a nice house right on the coast. It needed a little bit of work, a little bit older. But because it would have been a good investment, even with the amount of money we would have had to put in. But then when this house came back on the market, it was a turnkey property, and it actually was going for about the same price.
Oh, okay.
So we're like,
this isn't made, right?
Yeah,
done. So when you say on the coast, did it have waterfront view? Did it have?
It was like a block away from the bay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. But still not worth fixing it up. You wanted the turnkey property, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We want the renter in the end.
Quickly.
I'm not living
quickly. Yeah.
If I could put in less money, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So the investors went in on this one with you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Both of them did, or just one?
Both of them went in with us, and in fact, because we came with the experience, our two properties,
your deep experience,
our vast knowledge that we carry.
Yes, right.
They said, hey, your knowledge counts for something, so you guys put in less, but we'll call it equal share.
Right, and a lot of people do that, Kyle. The one that makes the deal gets usually at least 10%, if not more. And then the others, so yeah.
Yeah. So, then that was kind of the thing we also liked about it, because most people think, oh, you're going to put in the same amount of money as us and do all the work, and we'll call it.
No.
Yeah.
No. So, okay, so that's good. So, in your partnership, if you don't mind sharing, do you guys have a formal contract that you wrote? I understand these people, but do you have something in writing, like if someone wants out, how do you exit? Do you have the deal written down somehow?
Yes, we do. We have it down, notarized. We went through a couple iterations. Everyone's in agreement with it. Yeah.
How it was worded.
Yeah, it took a few iterations to get everyone on the same page.
And did you have an attorney do that, or you guys just wrote it up, or?
We wrote it up.
Okay, cool. And do you plan to put it in an LLC? Do you plan to invest more with these people, or kind of how does that look?
So we're all kind of at the age where we're looking at to get our own personal homes too. So one of them's actually actively looking. So we don't know if he's going to be in. So we didn't put in an LLC yet.
Okay.
But, if we do more, we will. It's just a partnership.
Okay. So, so things to consider, though, is, are those people, because you're holding title in your own names, right? So if anything happens to any one of you guys, the property could be at risk. So you might want to do something, we are still to protect yourselves. So what's your long-term goal? So now you have the duplex and a couple of properties in Texas. Are you going to keep investing in Texas? Are you looking for other states to invest in? Are you looking to build more partnership? Kind of what's your long-term goal?
So Christine and I, we have a 10-year plan.
Okay, let's hear it.
And we like to have 10 properties within 10 years.
Within 10 years, okay.
That'll be a mix of, partnerships and some that are solely ours. And of course, one of those properties will be our home. Right. And actually that plan is written down on 2 pieces of paper.
Very nice.
So
it's very simple, right? It's handwritten.
Yeah, we have every column is a year and the things we expect for that year.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. This is when 2 analytical people get together. It works.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have a written plan. It's a 10-year plan. Year 1 starts next year. We already have our properties from this year and our current one we live in. There are different things on this plan, from getting a new car for Christine in a couple years, getting our permanent home, kids.
Right.
Yeah. which
Very
which
cool. So do you
20
have also a cash flow? You know that book I recommend, the numbers. So do you have your number? Do you have a cash flow number that says, okay, Kyle and Christine can be out of the rat race at X amount of dollars? Do you have that dollar figure?
Yes. So at the end of year 10, we have a 4,500 monthly cash flow,
Okay.
and that'll cover our basic expenses.
Okay.
And that's our cash flow for, in my feeling is that's per 4,500 for Christine to retire.
Okay. Right.
And
Or
then
get out of the rat race.
yeah, the rat rate. Yeah.
She's not going to sit in a rocking chair, right?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah. No. For her to, and then
Financial freedom day.
yeah.
Yeah.
She
Okay.
can retire first, then me. Hopefully
Right.
that happens
That's
both.
the correct order, by the way, Carl. In case you were wondering, Kyle, it is
Oh.
the correct order.
I had questions about that. So.
I know you do. Okay, so that's cool. So you have a number in mind. So are you going to keep investing just in Texas and here, or are you open to other things? What are your thoughts on that?
So we might do one more in Texas or in Corpus Christi. If we might, my feeling is I kind of want to go to a different city to
Texas.
spread it, or it doesn't have to be Texas. Could be wherever in the U.S.
Okay.
Because you spread your investments out, right?
Right.
Like diversifying, and that way you also spread yourselves from the different natural disasters that happen. It's California earthquake and fires. As we saw, Corpus Christi was just missed. Well,
Yeah.
They got hit by Hurricane Harvey, but there was no real damage to Corpus Christi. They have really good drainage.
Right. Which is amazing because they're by the water, kind of like New Orleans is. New Orleans is also by the water, right? But they get hit hard, yeah. Okay.
Port Aransas is right across from them, and they got hit directly where Corpus Christi's was maybe 30 miles away from, but they were still in the red zone when we were looking at it.
Yeah, right.
So, spread yourselves out from the natural disasters.
Right. Well, and just also not only climate, I guess you'd call it, but the not lifestyle, but there's a culture in Texas, there's a culture in the Midwest, the coastlines are different, tenants are different, lifestyle, so that's kind of why I teach to diversify like you would with a mutual fund, right? You don't buy 100% of your 401k does not going to have Coca-Cola stock, right? You're going to diversify into different industries. So, okay, well, that's good. Very good. So what else did I have? So the and I asked if you have it written. You definitely did. Let's see. So, and you don't have any idea where that next place will be where you invest, huh?
Not yet.
Not really.
We're talking about it. In fact, I got a text message from our partner today. He's like, "When's our next one?"
People get excited. And are your partners the same age as you, or are they older, younger? How old are they?
We're all about the same age.
All about saying, yeah. So it's exciting. When I was younger, I thought, I don't know if Social Security is going to be there. I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to retire. I mean, I was self-employed, so I had no 401k. So you really think about who's going to take care of me 30 years from now, right? Or 40 years from now.
The big thing for me was when I started working full time, I was a year or two after they stopped giving pensions.
Right.
And a lot of the coworkers, they talk about, oh yeah, my pension's paying, going to save me for retirement. And I'm like, wow, I don't even have that safety blanket.
Yeah. And what if the stock market goes down right when you need the money, right? So you can't have anything in stocks. Yeah. So this is kind of your plan for retirement. And actually, when you have children, I teach this in the class, but it's a great way to pay for school. You buy a little condo somewhere, right? Or a little house. And by the time your child's 18 years old, ready for college, it's almost paid off. If you think of it that way, right? Property number one is for kid number one. Property number two, you could actually set up cash flow now for when you need it for schooling, right? People do too.
In fact, one of my mentors, he's thinking about, because his son is thinking about going to med school, and he's like, well, why don't I just get a property out there?
Right.
Live in one of the units, and then we'll rent out the rest and schooling.
So now that you said that, and we have time, so I'm going to ask you, so how did you find your mentor? I mean, I know you found me because Fred dragged you to the class, right? Okay. So he forced you to. But how did you find this other mentor?
Fred introduced me. He was like, hey, let's go work out together. I go work out with a friend. And actually, I think now I'm better friends with my mentor than he is with him. So,
Right. Oh,
yeah.
that is cool. That's really cool. That's funny though, Fred. And
Fred's my best
sure, he
connection.
didn't introduce you to Christine, right?
No, he didn't. No. So Christine and I went to high
The
school.
matchmaker here. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so do you think you ever would mentor other people? I mean, you are doing that right now, by the way, but do you think you would ever mentor other people?
Oh yeah, sure. It's
fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fun. Well, you really like I really enjoy real estate. You know? Like, I have friends who they like to invest in the stock market or Bitcoin, the popular one, or they talk about venture capitalists and like start their own businesses, and they get super excited. Well,
right.
Real estate's that thing for me.
Right. It is exciting. And I could actually see you putting deals together more and more. So I kind of think your 10 property plan, you'll probably blow through that number, but sooner than later. But just because it's fun to put the deals together. So cool. Well, good. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Do you read any books right now? Are you reading any books?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
No. I go through these phases where I'll binge read and then and then I'll go through long phases of not reading.
Right.
It's this whole interview right now. It's kind of surreal to me because I don't know if you remember when you had us introduce ourselves in the class. I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like,
you were the guy who was forced there.
Yeah, and you go through this. You see yourself as owning like multiple units, multiple properties as something it's so far-fetched because especially at my age, there are a lot of our friends, they have that really nice home and we have this dinky little 2-bed 1-bath rental unit, right? That we live in.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very, I guess it's surreal to think, well, yeah, a lot of our friends have their homes that they're going to live next 10, 20 years, 30 years in. But we now have 3 houses.
Right. And you remember in the class, I say, don't like strap yourself down with a big debt before you build some assets, right? Because otherwise you're living for that one property instead of the property feeding you, right?
Yeah.
And so many people do that. And then they're like, oh, I never have enough money to invest, which is probably true, right?
Yeah.
You buy a house, now you start having kids, now you're going on vacations, kids have sports. So if you don't do it in that order of buying a plex of some kind and maybe a couple of them, and then the house of your dreams or whatever, you'll just never be able to turn that around, right?
Yeah, but yeah, from when I took that first class, I could never imagine us being at this point.
That's awesome.
Everything just seems so far away.
Well, because it does seem surreal, right? When you're sitting in the class, you're like, how could I do this?
You just take those steps one at a time, and then suddenly you look back and you're like, oh wow, I'm far.
I always say money follows money. So once you start getting that cash flow flowing, then it starts happening more and more, right? Just like your friends see you investing, see you successful, now the money shows up, right?
Yeah. We weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be next year, actually. So, or a year or two.
Well, you put that plan in pencil or pen? You can just erase that.
There is some whiteout on it, though.
I'm sure there is. And you'll keep changing it and moving it up, and because opportunities will come, right?
Yeah, and Christine and I, we both have our own little gold notebook journal. It's not just at the beginning of the year. It's not just New Year's resolution. Throughout the year, we're updating it. Or in fact, she has a list. She likes to keep a list of books that she's read throughout the year and just progress.
Oh, I love that. We're gonna have to have her on next. So do you guys share your journals or share your goals, like talk about it, or it's you've got yours and she's got hers?
We talk about it, but we don't really. Yeah, we don't share it. What we write in there is our personal, but I mean, we're pretty open already. We already know where we want to go. We're on the same track.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you're an awesome team. So I'm just looking to see if I have any questions. It doesn't look like I have any questions from anybody. Let's see. Someone wants a credit. I don't know what that means. Okay. I don't know what that means. Okay. Maybe he wants credit. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what that man means or person means. Okay. So was there anything else you wanted to talk about as far as real estate goes, though?
Don't be afraid to to really look at out of state, especially with the internet.
People are very afraid.
Once you get the hang of things on what you're looking for, do your due diligence on a city in like 10, 15 minutes from what you see online.
Right. And then how did you find your realtor? Because that's part of due diligence, is someone there in that city who can tell you if it's good or bad. Or
we started out with first using that thing on Zillow, where it says, recommended. First we started with that, and then we also did an internet search of realtors in the area. And actually, Michelle, our realtor here, she reached out to a couple of her clients who had moved over there.
Okay.
Got us in contact with a couple of other realtors. So we were able to really interview quite a few people.
Some quality people.
Yeah. And actually, the one we got off Zillow was not a real investment realtor.
Oh.
So we had to drop her pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So you could see the difference between someone who just wants to sell people homes to live in versus someone who's got like an investor mindset.
Oh yeah. There's such a clear difference between them because someone who sells homes for just people to live in them, they kind of sell the dream, right? Of this is what your home will look like. This is your neighborhood.
Yeah.
The investment side, they look more at the numbers. They think, okay, we can draw in this many, this house will draw in a lot of renters, or they start talking numbers.
Yeah, you can tell the difference. Yeah,
totally different.
Yeah. So, and then I remember you said you had used my 31 questions to ask a property manager. So, how was that helpful in finding the property manager, or maybe getting rid of people? I don't know.
An example is both times when we interviewed in California and in Texas, the ones that we didn't like at all would either not give us the time to even answer these questions because they're not that hard. They're not hard questions. They're very straightforward and simple. They tell us, we can do it, or they look at our website and your answer would be there. They kind of,
Yeah.
But the ones that would just talk to us, we wouldn't even get to ask the questions. They would answer just by talking.
Right. By explaining their business, they were basically answering the questions that you would have asked, I guess, right?
Yeah. They go through that whole list, and then suddenly you look at that list and you're like, oh, you answered everything and more.
Right. Cool. And then I think you said you ended up that your realtor is actually a property manager, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That worked out good. Yeah. So, so people do have fears about investing out of state. So, so what do you think the key is to being comfortable with investing out of state? Because the price points are lower, right? Ohio, 50 grand for a house, or 20 grand, So there's a lot of states that are with your, like you said earlier, with your down payment, you could buy 2 houses in Ohio, the down payment that it would take here in California, right? So, so how can people get beyond that fear, or how can they work towards getting over that fear?
The things that helped us was our property manager and realtor. He was very familiar with the areas. Just from talking to him, he confirmed a lot of our research that we looked up, and then he kind of, he knows all the ins and outs, so he kind of goes into even more detail.
Right. Okay.
That helped us get comfortable, and also having known that there are other investors investing in this area, because Christine had gone to that seminar, so built the confidence.
And she stayed in touch with those people as you guys were going through this process, or?
Oh yeah, she's
So you could check things out with the other investors as well, right? So And did you drive by those guys' properties? Did you go see their properties, or?
Yes, we actually did. And
I'd be curious. What did they buy? What do we buy?
So the one that sparked our attention, we went and drove by it, and it was ugly. It was very ugly, yeah.
And you guys like ugly properties, huh?
Well, these were like, we try to get somewhere in the middle. These are kind of the spectrum. Okay. These were like towards the bottom.
Right. And how much is the price point for the ugly house?
Again, that was the 220.
Oh.
so right. Yeah. So it was made, right? Yeah. There might have been one for just 190, but still it wasn't. The rents were lower, so it didn't really make that much sense.
And then in your, so in that neighborhood or in that region, do they have apartment buildings? Do they have mobile home parks? Like, what's the makeup, or is it all single family residences? I mean, it's by the water, right? So
the majority are single family homes. There are sections of multi-unit properties, some duplexes, but those are relatively small compared to the amount of single family homes.
Okay. Through the questions to make sure, Ruby Thornton, which I think is Pamela Thornton, says, yes, money follows money. And getting the figure to get out of the rat race. She congratulates you for figuring that out. And then Mr. Hardy, I think, says, go Kyle, go. So everyone's encouraging you.
I think there was one question if we intend to visit the properties annually.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
On that, we were about to go to see our second property, but it rented out already. So we're like, well, we don't want to disturb tenants. So
that's awesome.
We may not go annually, but yeah, we'll probably make a visit every few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's probably good to see what you bought eventually, right? Oh, I see the question you were talking about. Okay. I got to get better at reading the questions. Sorry, people. Okay, well, I think that does it for our hour. I just want to thank you so much, Kyle, for sharing your experience and obviously people can say you're pretty much an open book. So I really appreciate that because it encourages people to take the next step in their investing,
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being such a great mentor to me.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And I think this is your first Facebook Live, you were saying?
This is my first interview about real estate ever, so.
Ever. Okay, I got it. That's awesome. Well, you're on your way and you're going to be an awesome mentor. So thank you very much for, sharing of your experience and yourself. And I can't wait to hear what you buy next.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So everybody, before I go, if you want to take your next step, Kyle did this, which was so much fun. And this is one of my favorite parts, believe it or not, about real estate investing is the due diligence. So Kyle came in and practiced due diligence. And I think it's really good to do. If someone's buying a property, it's good to have a sanity check on the numbers, how to do the due diligence. There's the property itself. There's the neighborhood. There's the numbers themselves. How do you come up with the numbers, especially when you're doing it out of state? So my invitation to you is come on in and let's practice some due diligence together. It'll help you so much in your whole career of investing. So that's it
definitely helped.
Yeah, and it was fun, right, Kyle?
Yeah, it was.
It's being a sleuth. Okay, so everybody come on in to do a review of due diligence with me. You can call me directly at 310-218-6855. My name's Athena Paquette, and I look forward to seeing you again at Investors Corner and Investors Talk. Thanks, Kyle. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
This has been another episode of My Cashflow Academy's Investors Corner with your host, Athena Paquette Cormier. We wish you all the success you deserve as you use what you've learned here out in the real world. Check out the blog post for this episode, along with many more helpful resources at mycashflowacademy.com.